Wehn, Henning, Wehn, he knows best. 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 Ladies and gentlemen, herzlich willkommen. Welcome to Henning Knows Best. Give it up for Otto Kuhnle. And is Herr Kuhnle, the funniest man from Düsseldorf and the Fatherland's foremost Jodelmeister, and more from him in a little while. Well, let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Henning. I am the German comedy ambassador to the United Kingdom. And I know there are all those stereotypes, but let me get one thing straight. We Germans like a laugh. Just like you Brits, we really, really do. Honestly, we really do. The only difference is we Germans laugh once the work is done. Whilst you laugh instead of doing any meaningful work. And that is the main cultural difference. And now for the next 6 weeks I've been kindly asked to explore aspects of British society, and today's topic is the class system. British class system is very different from Germany, where everybody's doing incredibly well. We used to have Barone and Kaiser and Großherzoge and Kurfürsten and whatnot, but all these were destroyed, along with most of our infrastructure, by foreign aggressors. Thank you very much. And today we have shiny new autobahns of social mobility on which everyone can speed along to their heart's content. But it wasn't always like this. Some of you might remember a documentary about Germany during the hard times. It was called Auf Wiedersehen, Pet. In 1984, my hard-working father said to me, "Entschuldigen Sie, wie komme ich am besten zum Bahnhof?" Which roughly translates as, "Son, emigrate." There's nothing for you in Germany. All the manual labour jobs in the Rhineland have been taken by chirpy, lovable, violent Geordies who are refugees from Margaret Thatcher's war against laziness. Which is another war you started and we had to pay for. We didn't get rid of the English until reunification, when all them Eastern European builders snapped up the jobs for nothing. Just glad not to be making things out of asbestos and their own blood. But we're not here to discuss Germany. That's the Daily Mail's job. We're here to discuss the British class system that caused so much turmoil. The labels lower, middle and upper class first appeared during the Industrial Revolution. In the early days, it was broadly speaking defining who owned the donkey, who walked the donkey, and who was the donkey. And since then, a whole army of publicly funded sociologists have researched the topic and identified groups I don't believe for a second are distinguishable. Whole books are devoted to comparing the upper, lower, lower, upper, middle class to the upper, lower, upper, middle, lower, middle, lower, middle class to the upper, lower, upper, middle, lower, upper, upper, middle, lower, upper, middle, lower, upper, middle, upper, lower, middle, upper, lower, upper, middle, lower, middle class. Those class books have never been read by anyone. Yet they do play a very important role in modern-day Britain. The middle class have them on the bookshelf to look sophisticated. The lower class uses them to prop up their 50-inch plasma TVs. And the aristocracy uses them to get the fire going. And one thing is for sure, life in Britain is all about knowing your place. And let's start at the bottom, the lower class. The lower class has a lot in common with the upper class in that they're mostly unemployable, make virtually no tax contribution, have a taste for Burberry and shotguns, and don't need to consider if they can afford another child. And they also both live in grandly named estates that are falling apart around their ears. They are both hated by the middle class, who never actually see any upper or lower class people, unless they watch Country House Rescue or The X Factor, which they do relentlessly. Many of the lower class don't go to school, because if they do, they run into Jamie Oliver, who will be taking their chips off them. Force them to meet Rolf Harris. So as far as I can tell, as an outsider, the lower and upper classes rule the country between them. The upper class spends most of its time saying, "Oi, where's me martini?" And the lower class spends most of its time saying, "Oi, where's me benefits?" And the middle class spends most of its time saying, "I'm sorting both those things out for you now." Sorry about the wait. However, this cosy picture is confused by a fourth class, the so-called working class, an ancient term once referring to the class that worked. These days, the term refers to the long-term unemployed that talk about how hard their dads used to work. And the historic working class has a special place in the British psyche, a bit like the red squirrel, or Queen Mum's older sister, Dame Vera Lynn.
There always be an England where there's a country lane.
We're all European now, Herr Just like the red squirrel, the working class used to be everywhere, but now inhabits only the far north and the Isle of Wight. All the same, every Brit likes to imagine that his father was a working-class hero, in much the same way that every Frenchman likes to think that his granddad fought in the resistance. Now, who am I to set either of you straight? And the working class were a bunch of cheeky, cheerful, dirty-faced geezers who did back-breaking work for no money, knew their place and would be spending all day saying things such as, "Lovely jubbly, oi oi Savoy, and have a banana." Despite no one ever seen a banana. Hard as it may to believe, but in those days the working class was too busy working to hunt for paedophiles or buy tracksuits from Sports Direct. And the historic working class is fondly remembered by the middle class, who wants to bring them back, along with white Christmases and hanging. And now we're moving on to the middle class, and the middle class is so huge that it has turned into warring factions. Broadly speaking, there are three subsections. The lower middle class, who read the Daily Mail. The middle class, who read the Guardian. And the upper middle class, who read the Financial Times. The only real difference between them is who they blame for taking all their money. The lower middle class thinks the poor and the immigrants are taking all their money. The middle class thinks the upper middle class is taking all their money. The upper middle class thinks the taxman is taking all their money. All of them have houses and credit cards they can't afford, which are taking all their money. My parents always taught me, they always said, Henning, you must not spend more than you earn. Then I came over here and realised there was a different economic rule here in the UK. The one economic rule in the UK is you must not worry. And once the interest payments on the credit card exceeds your actual income, you must not worry and get yourself another credit card. That'll be interest-free for the first 6 months and will give you enough breathing space to treat yourself to a luxurious holiday abroad. And once the whole system collapses, you must go camping in central London and blame bankers for treating you like a grown-up and letting you make your own ill-just decisions. Newspapers keep talking about the need for a middle-class revolution. But like all revolutions, this one would turn in on itself very quickly. Before very long, there would be a guillotine in Trafalgar Square, surrounded by stalls selling free-range burgers and fair-trade coffee. And what remains of German aristocracy is now living comfortably in Britain as the royal family. They're as German as the Mini Cooper. And just like the Mini Cooper, they're loved by all, as could be seen at last year's royal wedding, when in excess of 1 million people lined the streets of London to watch overprivileged people drive non-competitively. Worldwide, more than 2 billion people watched the wedding on the Gogglebox, proving there is nothing on telly everywhere. Seeing their exalted position, it's almost ironic that the core quality of the royal family is its common touch. Prince William, for example, is a regular guy who just so happens to be president of the English Football Association. He's also a big supporter of Aston Villa. He's a bit rubbish. In Aston Villa, they're from the Midlands. I mean, there is nothing wrong with the Midlands. Well, there is. I've been there. What I don't like about Prince William supporting Aston Villa is that I think Prince William should have the decency to support his local side, Hanover. That's the very reason why Prince Harry is so much better liked in Germany, because Prince Harry, he isn't afraid to don the good old uniform every now and then. Standing up for his family history. Well, other than the royal family, it's very difficult to say who else is upper class. Are the royals the only upper class people in Britain? Well, let's find out, and welcome to the stage a man that should be able to shed some light on that mystery. The social and cultural observer and author of the official Sloane Ranger Handbook, Peter York. Very good. Take a seat.
Thank you. And you too.
Oh, thank you. You're patronising me very well. And so far from what you've heard, is it a fairly accurate description of the class system?
God, I thought it was brilliant. Do you live out of London? What postcode?
N8.
Oh, come on. N8, well, it doesn't happen. The full force of the global jackboot does not fall on N8. I'm sorry about the N8 thing. I didn't...
Don't hold it against you.
No. Where is it?
What did you make of David Cameron saying he's middle class? I mean, if he's middle class, is there still an upper class? Or is it just foreign?
In polls, Nobody says they're upper class. People who are upper class are terribly aware of the more upper class a person. They're thinking, I'm not really upper class, I'm not a duke, I'm a baronet, come on, you know.
So, Peter, are you saying if we were to ask the Queen, she would say she's middle class?
I think she thinks of herself as middle class. I think she thinks of herself as representing us all.
Well, people of thinking they represent everyone. Usually they're dictators, aren't they? Is it us foreigners being obsessed with the British class system more than the Brits themselves? Is that true?
When they do research around the world about Britain, that's the first thing that comes up. And it's because of the royal family. And also because of our media industry, Downton Abbey.
It's also the only way is Essex. And
yes. That is completely wonderful stuff. It doesn't sell abroad like Downton. It's for us.
It's for us to laugh at.
It's about us. It's for us, yes. And the point about the only ways Essex people is they're really quite well off. Those are not the industrious poor, are they?
Well, they're certainly not industrious. No, but if you were to go abroad, were to introduce yourself at a party, say in Düsseldorf, where Kuhnle is from, you were to go to a party in Düsseldorf, would your class background be part of your self-description or your understanding of yourself?
In Düsseldorf, it's the only time I've had a major robbery from the car.
So, tell us, what went missing?
I tell you, God, it was lovely. I think about it. This years later, it was a crocodile suitcase.
There's no swimming in the Rhine. There is the idea abroad that essentially in Britain you all live in castles. And you get up in the morning and go fox hunting, and then late at night birch your servant, and, for the joy of it. What demonstrates most what class someone is from or in?
Well, I always think it's their bank balance.
So that means that John Terry is upper class?
Yes. Yes. Oh, absolutely.
I can't thank you enough for coming on the show, shedding some light on the mystery that is the class system. Please, everybody, give it up one more time for the fantastic Peter York. Is there still a class system? I mean, after this conversation, I'm just as unsure as I was before. I mean, is class still relevant? Because Tony Blair, he dreamed of a classless Britain and tried to level the playing field by sending everyone to university. But as anyone who understands basic economics knows, the effect of everyone having a degree is to make them all worthless. Well, there got to be failure for success to be possible. And there can't be a situation where everyone's got success, because that's then not success. That's then just the norm. You know, of the 2.7 million unemployed in Britain today, 2.3 million have a BA with honours in film and media studies. And a millstone of student debts round their neck. This leads to the horrible situation that even educated youngsters feel the need to go on the X Factor. Only to find themselves temporarily too well known to take the bus, but still too poor to take a cab. The philanthropist Charles Booth, he tried to chart London's classes with his poverty map in 1898, colouring the houses and streets in colours that represented social groups, such as good ordinary earnings or vicious semi-criminal. I would argue today money has much less impact on a person's class, because today he would need to paint a map in hundreds of different colours, representing feckless graduate with no people skills, affluent lap dancer, or terrifying good-for-nothing upper-class corrupt businessman without a business. And that's Prince Andrew's house. And class is betrayed by the little things in life. The one surefire way of showing upper middle class affluence was frequent consumption of the after eight. Yeah, but like university education today, everyone is at it with disastrous consequences. Now, just the other day, did I see someone eaten after 8 on a bus? At 6 p.m. In a blatant breach of the clearly specified eating instructions. What is class? Is it a sense of community? Traditionally, the most equal part of the country remained the north of England, with its strong sense of community spirit. That goes back through Britain's industrial past all the way to the feudal times. What I'm trying to say, it's so nice up north. Now, I tell all southerners to go up north and experience the great northern community spirit firsthand. We just travel across the Pennines on a train, say from Preston over to York. It's beautiful countryside. But you'll only understand what the great northern community spirit is all about when the train goes through any of the towns or villages on the way. Because from nowhere, there'll be loads of fly tipping. Huh? And there'll be fridges, freezers, washing machines, the lot. And there are walls and fences to the right and the left of the train tracks. Yet beside the train tracks, there they are, thousands of unwanted white goods. Took me a long time to understand the cultural significance of those abandoned household appliances. But, I mean, every single one of them is a moving testament to the great northern community spirit. Yeah, it is, because have you ever tried to lift a washing machine on your own? Ooh, I can't get this over the fence. Can anybody give me a hand, please? And then the whole village comes running, and they get it over the fence, and it hurtles down towards the tracks, and they rejoice in their great northern community spirit, and setting fire to an abandoned car. Yeah, it's the north of England, united in antisocial behaviour. Devon in bloom. Who needs that? Lancashire in tatters. And that's the accolade you want your village to win. Let's not forget, Britain offers everyone the opportunity to live their dream. Because I came over all those years ago to work in marketing. And then one night I walked past a pub where it said, "Tonight, stand-up comedy." So I went in, had a butcher's, really enjoyed what I saw. I picked up the phone the next morning and got my first few open mic gigs in. And that's the beauty of life in Britain. You can really live your dream. If you want to become a stand-up comedian, you can start tomorrow. Brilliant. No one's going to stop you. Equally, if your dream is being a plumber, you can start tomorrow. And no one's going to stop you. You can live your dream. Brilliant. I mean, obviously your customers, they'll be knee-deep in feces in no time. Well, you can live your dream. And Germany is a far more restrictive society. Because in Germany you have to go through the tedious process of an apprenticeship until you know what you're doing.
Henning, that's why you're working here, huh?
Yes, yeah. So, Herr Kuhne, we were talking about dreams and ambitions.
Yes, we are talking about, and by pure chance, I wrote a song about dreaming. Everybody's got a secret dream and hopes that it comes true. No matter who you are, a homeless drunk or a well-known star, everybody has their dream, even if only cake with cream. The German dream all year, it's a schnitzel with a nice cold beer. None of us want what we already have. The grass is always greener, so we keep on believing. Ho ho, that's called dreaming. The bald-headed man wants to have some hair. When he gets some hair, He wants an affair for every pound in your pocket. You want two. A beautiful girl wants an ugly tattoo. I've had a wish for a long, long time. It comes deep from this old heart of mine. It's been my dream for my whole life. It's not kids, not money, not even a five. But my fantasy is so unrealistic. At least if you believe the statistic. Just one thing I've always wanted to do, and that's to yodel on radio too. Jodeln auf Radio 2. Now that I have achieved this dream, all that's left is to yodel for the queen. Thank you.
Wunderbar. And we've learned loads today about the British class system, haven't we? I mean, it does exist, but it doesn't matter. Except for when it matters, which is quite often. Except for when it doesn't. So there's loads of classes, but everyone is middle class. People are aspirational, yet lazy. So they play down their background. People have manners, except for the ones they're down, and they all like their after eight. But no one's eaten one since the 1980s. Oh, it's all too complicated. Trying to explain the class system in 26 minutes. How misguided. I give up. That's it for now. Tune in next week when I'll explain the meaning of life.
Henning, Wehn, he knows best. Henning, Wehn, he knows best. Henning, Wehn, he knows best. Henning, Wehn, he knows best.
That was Henning Knows Best. Hosted by Henning Wehn, that's me, and featured Peter York, the fabulous Otto Kuhnle, and was written by the cast and Kent Valentine and Liam Malone. It was produced by Paul Russell and was an open mic production for BBC Radio 2.
Henning Wehn, he knows best. 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 Henning Wehn, he knows best.
Ladies and gentlemen, herzlich willkommen. Welcome to Henning Knows Best. Give it up for Otto Kuhnle. There's Herr Kuhnle, the funniest man from Düsseldorf and the Fatherland's foremost Jodelmeister, and more from him in a little while. Probably I should quickly introduce myself. My name is Henning. I am the German comedy ambassador to the United Kingdom. It's not the easiest of jobs. I've been very kindly asked to explore aspects of British society, and this week's topic is politics. And let's get this out of the way first. In Germany, politics started with the formation of West Germany in 1949. No one knows what happened prior to that, and that's that. Thank you very much. So, the Westminster parliamentary system. I've only been living here for a few years, so I'm not too sure about some of the facts, but luckily British politics is not about facts. You have a positive body language, the trendiest haircut, and which leader's wife wears the tightest outfit. And opinion polls. Even if conducted only amongst a handful of drunkards outside a pub, or most likely entirely made up. Anyway, here's my cobbled-together history of British politics. It all seems to have started in 1215, when King John grudgingly agreed to let Parliament look after some of the small stuff, such as gypsy punching, and buying hobnobs. However, this power went to the people's heads, and in 1649 they decided they couldn't manage by themselves and chopped the king's head off on Whitehall, which then became a whole street full of people dealing with gypsy punching and hobnob buying paperwork. Oliver Cromwell became the Lord Protector of England, offering the sort of protection you might get from the Gambino family. But people quickly tired of the lack of royal weddings and having nobody to open daycare centres. And so in 1660 demanded their monarchy back, as long as the royals limited themselves to amusing commoners with tabloid toe-sacking scandals. And they have been good to their word ever since. On the party political scene, two groups eventually emerged, the Whigs and the Tories. Both of these were derogatory nicknames which stuck, like with the two LA crime syndicates, the Bloods and the Crips, except their members mostly died of gout rather than drive-by shootings. The Whigs became the Liberal Party, who wanted to punch fewer gypsies and give out more hobnobs. The Tories became the Conservatives, who wanted to punch more gypsies and keep all the hobnobs. In the late 19th century, the Labour Party entered the scene with the radical idea of giving everyone hobnobs, particularly if they lived illegally in a Greenbelt caravan. And today the Conservatives are the party of the idle rich and the exhausted middle class. Their greatest leader was Mrs. Thatcher, who convinced the population there is no shame in going to work. And that's the problem with an audience that's all in here on free tickets. Yeah, her little helper, Norman Tebbit, even had a very good suggestion for how to get there. On a bike. And Labour is the party of the working man and the angry layabout. Its name bears no relation to its objective. Their greatest leader was Tony Blair, because nobody starved to death in the Blair years. Starving to death was made illegal, along with gypsy punching and unlicensed biscuit trading. In fact, everything was made illegal, apart from illegal wars. And the Liberal Democrats are the party of people who are unhappy. It used to be the party of people who were unhappy with the political system, but now it is the party of people who are unhappy with the Liberal Democrats. And their greatest leader was William Ewart Gladstone, who was cruising London by night, telling prostitutes to go home. I much prefer him over, say, the Tory right, who are telling me to go home. A Labour, Conservative or Liberal, no matter your political orientation, as a victorious candidate of any election, you're guaranteed a very short honeymoon period with the public, followed by years of being referred to as an incompetent criminal half-wit. The political system in Britain is not representative or democratic or even fair. For the reason that is how you like it. In May last year, you were given a referendum to have the sort of electoral system we have in Northern Europe, where everyone's vote is important. And you all decided democratically that you like that idea even less than you like our toilets. For you, democracy is something to be discharged, not inspected. Unfortunately, these days, showing an interest in politics is considered unfashionable. Let me tell you, done correctly, it's even a great topic for a first date. Because you can show what a nice guy you truly are. I vote for the Greens because they're good to the environment. And the environment is good to animals. And I really like animals. In fact, I like nothing better than watching internet footage of a little sneezing panda, puppies and kittens playing in a laundry basket with towels on their heads. So endearing. Now take off your clothes. At this point, I must point out I'm not voting for the Greens. I obviously vote for the UK Independence Party. They're serious about implementing Otto von Bismarck's 19th century plan of keeping Britain isolated. British Euroscepticism is surprising, as Brits are usually very good to us foreigners, because you tolerate us. Thank you. You're not welcoming us. You don't go that far, but you do tolerate us. It's a great British virtue, that tolerance, isn't it? Now, what is tolerance? Let's have a butcher's in the Oxford English Dictionary. This is not my proper Oxford English Dictionary. The proper one is too heavy to hold it on stage comfortably in one hand. So what I've done is, I wrote a few definitions out the Oxford English Dictionary and wrote them onto blank cards, which I then glued into this book that I otherwise don't need. It's a book I won at a raffle at the German embassy, and it's a tour guide to the former East Germany. I've got absolutely no intention of ever travelling there. Even now, more than 20 years after the wall came down, they still vote for the bloody communists, those ungrateful bastards. If I had it my way, I would line up all the East Germans, I would line them all up against the wall and shoot the bloody law of them. Anyway. Tolerance. And tolerance, according to the dictionary, is the willingness to accept or allow behaviour, beliefs, customs, which one does not like or agree with, without opposition. That's a great virtue. So there is something you really, really dislike, but you can't be bothered to do anything about it. And back home we call that lazy cynicism. When David Cameron described civil servants as the enemy of enterprise, he clearly hadn't heard of the superhuman achievements in Sunderland South, the constituency that traditionally declares well within the hour. As the Echo, Sunderland's local paper, put it in the run-up to the last general election, hopes are now high that Sunderland's 3 constituencies are first to declare, putting Wearside firmly on the map and making Sunderland an international talking point. They really did write that. So, one can almost picture 2 tribesmen in the Mali desert. Have you heard about Sunderland declaring within the hour? Course I have. Come to think of it, declaring Sunderland within the hour isn't really that impressive. I mean, Britain does have first-past-the-post voting system, so you don't even need to bother with counting before announcing the winner. Sunderland, Labour, easy. I mean, I can declare Sunderland now for the next general election in 2015, Labour, and the one after that, Labour. And if Labour feels an extraterrestrial with tentacles for hands, Labour. I mean, Britain is one of the world's oldest democracies, and as such has quite a few health problems. Not a single election is complete without some party officials being arrested for putting hundreds of imaginary people onto the electoral roll and voting in their names. On the plus side, this administrative debacle boosts the usually low turnout, as everybody can cast as many votes as they like, for as long as they have enough poll cards and different hats to walk into the same polling station time and again. And the cheating is made easy, as there are no ID cards to prove your identity. So ID cards are seen as an intrusion of privacy. Same time, British voters don't see anything wrong with posting far more sensitive information on social networking sites, such as Facebook, because it's fun. I mean, I've seen the campaigning on Facebook. Say no to ID. Privacy is a human right. Also, here's a picture of the tattoo I've had done on my arsehole. British politicians are despised by their electorate for many reasons. For example, their dullness, a much underrated quality. Silvio Berlusconi and Robert Mugabe, they're not dull. But you wouldn't want to be governed by either of those, as they're bonkers. Far worse quality in a politician. Dullness equals stability. Germany only had 8 chancellors since 1949. Each of them slightly duller than the last. Each of them see their predecessor's dullness as a benchmark of excellence. Belgium is one of the world's most stable countries. Their government became so dull, it disappeared for 18 months. And the country did great by European standards. British politics became interesting once, in 1963, when it was discovered that the Minister of War, John Profumo, had the same prostitute as a Russian spy. In Italy, this would be regarded as a purely administrative error. The one thing more hated in politicians than dullness is thoroughness. When after the last general election Nick Clegg took a few days before deciding whom to enter a coalition with, the British public was outraged. He was called immoral, sordid and the worst harlot in history. Katie Price. And Katie Price is famous for showing her breasts, sleeping with loads of people and telling the world about it. And everyone goes, oh, good on her. She done the best she could. Well, a politician taking 5 minutes to try and organise a functioning government? What a dirty slut. What a filthy, shameless, revolting whore. And now welcome to the stage the man who knows everything there is to know about football and politics. Welcome to the stage the Mayor of Hartlepool, Stuart Drummond. Well, how did you become Mayor of Hartlepool? It's a tremendous story.
It was an accident. I used to be the mascot for Hartlepool United, so I used to dress up on a Saturday as a 7-foot monkey, Angus the monkey, and I was always looking for something new, a bit of publicity for the club, and I wanted to stand in the general election in 2000, but Peter Mandelson was Hartlepool's MP at the time, and he was also the president of Hartlepool United, so the club said no. So then we had a referendum to have an elected mayor, and it was a yes. And so I persuaded our chairman to lend me the £500 to stand for a bit of a laugh, and I won.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, you've been re-elected twice since.
Yeah, nearly 10 years now.
Yeah. So what was it then like the first day, you as a total outsider walking into the town hall?
I've been asked what was going through my mind at the time. It wasn't what was going through my mind, it was what was going through my underpants that I was really concerned about. It was daunting. The first duty was to attend a press conference, and it was like the England manager. There was, I think, 7 TV crews, there was about 60 journalists, and the press conference lasted an hour and a half. And some seasoned journalists who were there said it's the worst they've ever seen. It was really tough. They had journalists dressed up as monkeys. They were trying to hand me bananas. But I came through that, and I thought, well, if I can handle that, I can handle anything.
One of your election promises was to hand out free bananas. And
yeah. Not the best idea in hindsight. Yeah, free bananas for school kids. I think that's what won me the election. But unfortunately...
And I'm not delivering on them now.
Well, unfortunately, the council was trying to find a few £1 million savings at the time and couldn't afford it. So went back to the drawing board, and now every school in the town gets free fruit for all the kids. So delivered in the end.
So there's no need for Jamie Oliver in Hartlepool. Did you ever consider joining a political party as such? Or?
No, I can't stand politics, to be quite honest. Really, I didn't enter the political arena to be a politician, and especially at a local level, it's not about party politics, it's about what's right for the area you live. And, I don't have any political baggage or anything, and, I think the public really appreciate that. Certainly they do in Hartlepool. And
have you got any plans of potentially becoming an MP, or would that be something that...
I wouldn't take the pay cut, to be quite honest. No. No, to be fair, you can do a hell of a lot more for the town as a mayor than you could ever do for it as an MP, so...
There is a list of the world's most popular mayors?
World mayors, yeah. They have, every 2 years, they have a... And there's about 400 entries from around the world, and I think last year the mayor of Mexico City won it, Marcus Ebrand, but I come 10th, which was pretty good.
Fantastic!
It's great publicity for Hartlepool, you know. We're, as I say, we're a little village stuck up in the northeast where nobody works, according to you, and... and to get mentioned, you know, in the same breath as Mexico City and Delhi and San Francisco, Adelaide, places like that is great for Hartlepool.
OK, well, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Stuart Drummond. You had some ambition of entering politics, haven't you?
If you really want to change something, it's not good to go into a politics party. We called it...
Bader Meinhof.
Please don't mention that here.
The only people more hated than MPs are MEPs, members of the European Parliament. And British people think they're losing powers to Europe, but you're not. We are all losing power to China. I mean, I used to live on a quiet street in Tooting, South London, innit? Governor. I'm not living there anymore because I moved away when SatNav started telling drivers that my street is a great shortcut on the way from central London to the Dover ferry terminal. And when asking a lorry driver what he thought he was doing in my street at 5 a.m, he pointed to his SatNav, just following orders. Well, if it wasn't good enough to let my grandfather off at Nuremberg, it isn't good enough now. My street in Tooting is now a 14-hour traffic jam. And because the people in the TomTom factory in Shanghai decided that's how things have to be. In the good old days, say 2.5 years ago. You could air your grievances and protest outside the town hall. These days, you would have to protest outside some software company in China. And that's only advisable if you like the taste of bullets. We do live in a global world. And that's why I don't understand the absurd debate here in Britain. The debate if Britain is in Europe or not. Get a map. Get a map and you'll see Britain is in Europe. There's not much you can do about it. Iceland believes it's in Europe. Thousands of miles north of here, for God's sake, Kazakhstan is a member of the European Football Association. I mean, Kazakhstan has a border with China. They think they're in Europe. Of course Britain is in Europe. There is a lot not right with bureaucracy in the European Union. And I can assure you it's infuriating to bail everybody out time and again. You're like the Greeks. They're bust again, aren't they, the Greeks? Like Christmas, once a year they're bust. I mean, to be fair, the Greeks have tried everything to get out the economic hole. They've even tried going on strike. But turns out not working doesn't help either. Strange, who would have thought? Mind you, the macroeconomic difference between a Greek civil servant behind his desk or on strike. It's negligible. I mean, them turning up in the mornings is never more than a nice gesture. And with the holiday season coming up, don't go to Greece in a misguided attempt to help the country. Because how is that going to help? It's not the Greek people, it's the Greek state that's bust. And going there on holidays is not going to help at all, as all the money will end up in the pockets of some oligarch and the state will see none of it. If you're serious about helping Greece, you must go on holidays to Germany. Because our hotels, restaurants and tour operators do pay their taxes, which Berlin then can hand over to Athens. If the Greek air traffic controllers had any decency, they would be rerouting all incoming flights to Germany. In their own country's best interest, but they're obviously not doing that because they're obviously on strike. Paid for by Germany. Well, let's have an intelligent discussion now. I mean, why is Greece bust? It's all because they're bloody lazy. Because they're lazy and they evade paying taxes on what pathetically little work they do. And it's all overseen by inept civil servants. That's why they're bust. Or so I thought, but apparently I'm wrong. Because the Greek MP, Margaritis Simas, explained her country's in the doldrums, not because of widespread corruption or contempt for the state and non-existent work ethics. No, nothing to do with that. She said Greece is bust because Germany had not paid them war reparations. You couldn't make it up. I don't want to go all little, John, now. I mean, how dare they blame their current financial problems on some goings-on in the fatherland 70 years previously? It's ridiculous. Also, people always seem to overestimate the financial benefit of losing World War II. If anything, they should come knocking on Switzerland's door. They've made a mint, not us. I mean, the easiest way out of the debt crisis is the rest of us invading Switzerland. It's about time those gold-stashing, cheese-eating bastards paid the rent for living in Europe. Otto, would you, after all your time in the Baader-Meinhof gang, would you consider becoming actively involved in politics again?
Yes, and this is the reason why I wrote a song. I'm made for politics, I believe. That's a goal I can achieve. I think I can succeed in it. I'll become a massive hit. I like my culture and my people. I shout it from every steeple. Our country is so pretty. Every town and major city. But I hate to debate. I hate to debate. Better tell you straight. I hate to debate. I like to entertain any crowd. I'll have a tin whack or I'll shout out loud. The subject does not matter. I'll have a right old natter. I'm guaranteed a majority. You will respect my authority. I have a firm conviction. I'll have a well-trained diction. But I hate to debate. I hate to debate. Better tell you straight. I hate to debate. Democracy is overrated. Decision making hugely complicated. I would tolerate in my dominion everyone who shares my profound opinion. It's in all of our interest that democracy is put to rest. So welcome on the trip to my lovely dictatorship.
Let's summarize today's lecture. British politics has a great history, and I have greatest respect for your democratic tradition, your identity, and your quirks. It's all most admirable and must be preserved, but at the same time, I urge you to understand that size does matter. We do need a united Europe, and it must speak with one voice. A German one.
Henning, he knows best. Henning, he knows best. Henning, he knows best. Henning, he knows best.
That was Henning Knows Best. Hosted by Henning Wehn, that's me, and featured Stuart Drummond and der wunderbare Otto Kuhnle. It was written by the cast and Ken Valentine and Liam Malone. It was produced by Paul Russell and was an open mic production for BBC Radio 2.
Henning, he knows best. 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 Henning, he knows best.
Yeah, thank you very much. As Otto Kuhnle, he is the funniest man from Düsseldorf and the fatherland's foremost Jodelmeister. And more from Herr Kuhnle later. But today we're discussing the most important aspect of British everyday life, shopping. Yeah, consumerism. And shopping, just like life in Britain in general, is all about knowing your place. And even after 10 years in the UK, I sometimes don't know my place, as I recently found out when I tried to move house to Zone 1, central London, until I realised that Zone 1 accommodation is exclusively for two groups of people, millionaires and people on benefits. And as I'm neither, I had to stay put on the outskirts of Tooting. In it. Governor. Even Zone 1 rent prices are still quite moderate compared to Zone 1 cinema prices. Recently went to Leicester Square to watch a movie. 16 quid. Prices like that have not been seen since the end of hyperinflation in 1920s Germany. And we all know what that ultimately led to. Even less available affordable property in central London. Show stealer. No, I initially wanted to call this episode Town Planning, but Paul, the producer, considered the title Town Planning too dull, as well as too controversial, seeing Germany's impact on the design of British town centres some 70 years ago. And I must admit I can understand his reservations, as I vividly remember my first trip to Coventry. Walking the town, I felt a considerable amount of guilt for the German air raids that destroyed what must have been a beautiful city full of Tudor buildings. And I felt really awkward, particularly when I saw right in the town centre, right next to the two cathedrals, a beautiful mock Tudor building. It's massive. And there I was, marvelling at the size of the beautiful building right in the town centre, thinking, how did we miss that? Now we can all laugh about it now, can't we? Well, let's get down to business and let's describe the British High Street. The worst element of every high street are the chain charity shops. Evil enterprises get their stock for nothing. From gullible people thinking they're doing a good deed when donating to those so-called charity shops. Seeing they get the stock and even staff for free, charity shops can sell their tet for prices an independent shop can't compete with, driving them out of business, making them lose their existence, and that way cynically getting them as new customers. Let's have a look in the Oxfam bookshop. They've always got a great selection of Lonely Planets from 20 years ago. The one about Greece that has all the prizes in drachma will be particularly useful against charity shops are the worst con on the British high street. Tell you what, I rather set fire to my old belongings. Yeah, in total disregard for my carbon footprint and rising oil prices, I rather set them on fire than give them to a charity shop. And, well, if this sounds harsh, judging by your non-approving reaction, which it might, I must admit I have massive difficulties understanding the British concept of charity. You know those emails. Hello, sorry for not having been in touch for years, and now only with this round robin. Anyway, I'll be doing a fun thing I always wanted to do. Please give generously. I know someone who went on a 100k fell walk in the Yorkshire Dales, and he was genuinely angry with me for not donating any money for him doing that. Told him that where I'm from, him going for a walk is not an activity that should set me back. And it's always friends that are asking. And there's no shortage of people I would happily pay a few quid to if I would have never ever have to see them ever again. But it's always friends that'll ask for support for their 6 months trip to Rio de Janeiro. Sunbathing on the Copacabana and watching football at the Maracanã for charity. I'm driving Route 66 on a Harley for charity. I'm skiing to the South Pole for charity. I'm going whoring in Bangkok for charity. Yeah, timing.
I was too excited.
Yeah. But there is no escaping the fact life in Britain is all about supporting good causes, and everyone's chipping in. And the former cricketer Ian Botham, he showed his commitment to charity by walking from Land's End to John O'Groats. Eddie Izzard by running 50 marathons in 50 days, and David Williams by swimming across the Channel and down the Thames for comic relief, or, to be more precise, his own ego. Well, they're all very British achievements, aren't they? Walking very far, running a lot, swimming very far, all very British achievements, because bugger all is being produced. Other than excitement. One day I hope someone comes up to me and says, Henning, will you sponsor me? I'm going to rebuild British industry. For charity. The other indicator of a city's prosperity is the degree of dilapidation of the local shopping centre. Now, everybody remembers the great opening. The local MP was there. Someone who came fourth on X Factor 3 years previously cut the ribbon. For the kids, there was a bouncy castle and face painting. And for the adults, there was a Bucks Fizz tribute band. And we're talking one of the proudest days of any town's history. But it never lasts. Old shopping centres are cheaply built, and with no one taking ownership, they'll become an eyesore before long and will be standing largely empty in 10 years' time. But not to worry, it's Birmingham, the UK's second city, has proven time and again, simply built a new shopping centre. And then another one, and another one. Welcome to the new Bull Ring! We have several horrendous derelict shopping centres in near proximity. But we pretend we don't. And open this new one, that'll be horrendous in 10 years' time. In an advanced society, say Germany, the high street is for buying goods with money earned at one's workplace, and everyone understands that consumption and prosperity are the results of high productivity. In the UK, all that hard work is taken out of the equation. The whole country believes that if only there is enough being spent on the high street, economic success is guaranteed. The words production, manufacturing or productivity are never even mentioned. It's all reminiscent of Baron von Münchhausen's tale, in which he pulled himself out the moor by his own hair. Difference that in Germany is considered a laughingstock. In the UK would be a contender to become Chancellor of Exchequer. No sooner had England, I'm sure you remember that, no sooner had England overcome Croatia to qualify for the last World Cup and papers were full of stories that the high street would benefit from a nationwide 1.2 billion spending spree on booze and big TVs. As far as I understand, overindulgence and frittering away money one doesn't have, deriving from a false sense of entitlement, have been the main contributing factors behind the recession in the first place. But what do I know? Luckily, there is never a shortage of good news. England's made it to the European Championships. Great news for the high street, shifting loads of beer and barbecues. For an outsider, it's hard to understand how a months-long bender with zero productivity, followed by a 2-year hangover, is a way to kickstart an economy. The royal wedding is on. Great news for the high street, shifting loads of plastic flowers and Union Jacks. Economic policies can even be replaced by something as mundane as meteorological forecasts. Phew, what a scorcher. Great news for the high street, shifting loads of shorts and sunglasses. It's pissing it down. Great news for the high street, shifting loads of umbrellas. There'll be a shitstorm. Great news for the high street, shifting loads of cagoules and bleach. And the only storm not good for the high street is the debt storm. And even that's good news for payday loan shops. The only places in British society where genuine ambition is still being rewarded are those all-you-can-physically-eat Chinese restaurants. Earlier this year I went to one in Lincoln, and I'm happy to report that perseverance, dedication and competitive spirit are indeed alive and kicking in Britain 2012. Whilst visits to a carvery suffer from the logistical nightmare of having to balance 2 kilos of meat, veg and potatoes on the one single plate you're allowed, there is no need for any sort of self-control at a Chinese restaurant with its unlimited supply of plates. The whole restaurant came together, and there was a great camaraderie amongst Lincolnshire's most committed eaters, every single one of whom was determined to cause maximum damage to the buffet by relentlessly blitzing it time and again, bravely taking helping after helping of unidentifiable matter covered in gloopy MRSA sauce. It was an unrivaled triumph of willpower over taste and restraint. And as such, not too different from a traditional family Christmas. Mind you, there is one city that manages to pull off a version of the Münchhausen trick ad infinitum: Blackpool. They managed to implement a totally self-sufficient economic model up there. It's based on everyone buying booze off each other at different times of the day. And the only people in Blackpool with a job outside the booze cycle are the donkeys on Pleasure Beach. And they too look hungover. But to give us more of an insight of what makes the Brits do what they do in shops, welcome to the stage, homestyle consultant and star of changing rooms, DIY SOS and house gift. Welcome to the stage, Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen. Is it fair then to say that Brits really do like to spend money and really do like shopping? That's a fair assumption, isn't it?
No, it's absolutely true. I think it is much more complicated. There is an innate feeling with Brits that we like to celebrate the fact that we can buy things. You're absolutely right. We are buying an enormous amount of stuff that doesn't really impact our lives, affect our lives, make our lives better, and it is then being completely regurgitated into charity shops. I mean, you haven't touched on it. I don't know whether you've met this fabulous phenomenon yet of what we call a boot fair. Have you been to a boot fair?
Yes.
Who goes booting? I've got a feeling that there is a finite amount of tat that just keeps getting recycled. That you go to a boot fair and buy it because it's £1, and then you take it home, and then you have your own boot fair the next week to sell it on again. And it becomes a bit like a kind of a contagion. It's a bit like a sexually transmitted disease. You know, there's one object, this kind of, Murano ashtray, that has no use or point, just gets transmitted from person to person like herpes. You Germans should beware. I know it's all looking lovely for you at the moment, but never forget that I had my bottom pinched by Angela Merkel once, and I feel as if I'm a lot closer to your economic truths as a result. Something was passed on, and it wasn't a Murano ashtray.
So, and on what occasion, that is now the obvious question, on what occasion did that bum feeling...
To be fair, it was more a cupping. But nonetheless, it was in a bar in Hamburg. Maybe it was a case of mistaken identity on her account. I knew it was her. I could tell by the trouser suit.
Sarkozy will be jealous no end. Talking about shopping, I mean, where do you shop? Can we find you down the TK Maxx?
I have people to do that for me. In fact, the TK Maxx phenomena is fascinating because you're compelled to buy this shiny designer stuff because of how much it costs. But I completely agree with you about how difficult it is shopping for clothes, which is why I've now gone back to the straightforward British thing, which is to have a tailor who knows your size, who makes your clothes, and therefore there's no trying on. The process of shopping can be very intimidating, which is why I think the point of shopping is to never do it sober. Which, you go to a decent shop and they give you a glass of champagne before you start, and that's fine. You're on rails then. You're on rails. You'll buy anything then.
Yeah, I only know them places where they stand outside with a bottle of cider.
No, you need to up your game. And this is one of the things...
I know.
I love you for the fact that you are persevering with knitwear with a zip. It's so improbable. My one advice is to keep moving, because otherwise the V&A will list you.
Well, but the good thing about this zip, I mean, this will not make for great radio, I suppose, but the great thing is, see, I can regulate my body temperature extremely precisely. I think, it's a bit taters.
Yeah.
Just do it up 3 and then...
I love the fact you're counting the teeth of the zip. I think you should have little numbers embroidered on it, so that you say, oh gosh, 30 degrees, down 2 teeth. I mean, it must be difficult for you being German, because...
and all the other problems of a human existence.
Because your lovely companion there, he's rocking the German look with the little hat and the rather strange fold-back lapels, and the big squeezy bra thing makes music. I think that one of the problems that you Germans obviously have is trying to embrace the 21st century. Move on. Move on from the shaving brush in your hat. And as you say, the leather trousers.
Yeah.
I have to say, that's like being clapped by a firing squad.
Thank you very much. Give it up for Lawrence. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. So, Otto, have you ever been clothes shopping here in the UK?
Wehn, why should I? I got, as we do in Düsseldorf, I've got my one pair of leather trousers, and they are inherited from my grandfather. Well, he first gave them to my father, and he gave them to me. And anyway, they are
What colour are they?
Now they are brown.
What do you wear with them?
Shoes. Always shoes. I like shoes and a hat. And the rest you can, but it's not a must.
Well, on that lovely image, just discussed with Lawrence, wanting independent shops and holding on to a local identity. That is all good and well. But let's have a look at the one service industry that is independently run. B&Bs. Bed and breakfast. And they're predominantly horrific. And believe you me, as every touring performer, salesperson and lady of the night will tell you, there is a lot of false advertising when it comes to accommodation. I mean, talk about staycation all you like, but it's not going to happen as long as royal in hotel names is mostly a euphemism for hasn't seen a lick of paint or a new mattress since Victorian times. And B&Bs, they also stop serving breakfast at 6 a.m. to make sure no one will ever take them up on the offer. The only thing worse than getting up at 6 a.m. to find out they stopped serving breakfast is finding out breakfast is still being served. There's one place they'll never be accused of too much authenticity and local identity, and that are retail parks on the outskirts of towns. A lot of practical reasons, such as free parking outside the front door and all goods in one place, do speak for shopping there, especially if you're a big family or short of time. But what confuses me is when people spend their leisure time voluntarily in those complexes. For example, there is a weekly comedy gig at the cinema in a retail park near Bristol. They're absolutely fascinated by the event and always try to understand the audience's decision-making process. They must go, I tell you what, darling, I'll show you a good time tonight. Get in the car. No, we're not going into the historic town centre tonight. Let's drive to the retail park instead. And we'll be having dinner at Nando's. Before going to watch some live comedy in the cinema next door. In a screening room that by its very nature is designed to absorb sound, and as such is totally unsuitable for any form of live performance that requires building an atmosphere. And by blandness and not using all one's senses is not a recent phenomenon, but one with a proud British tradition. I mean, I remember a glorious day on the Gower Peninsula near Swansea. Sun was out, tide coming in, sandy beach and steep cliffs. Amazing. 20 cars parked on top of the cliff and people sitting in their cars. Not getting out. Not getting out for fresh air, but remain seated in the car, drinking tea from a flask. And generations of British people have spent family trips driving up to beauty spots and then driving home again. And it's not only old people, also young ones. And there were even more than 2 people sitting in one car. I mean, what experience will the ones on the rear seats have had? People always claim to wish for authenticity. But how much authenticity do people really want? After 10 years in the UK, I've become the go-to guy for German events and pseudo-German events in the UK. My favourite run of events every autumn, the German beer fest in Scotland. They're rough. I mean, those beer fests, they're a binge drinking session and a half. And they obviously need some on-stage entertainment because otherwise they couldn't get it past the licensing laws. And the on-stage entertainment is always provided by an Oompa band. And the most popular Oompa band in the UK, they're called Die Herr Flicks. After that Allo Allo character. And Die Herr Flicks, they're Terry, Lee and Andy. There's 3 Geordies. And they haven't got a word of German between them. And they're absolutely incredible. I mean, they have been the stars on the British Oompa circuit. And yes, it does exist. And they have been the stars on the British Oompa circuit for the last 3 decades, yet they still haven't got a single word of German between them. It's incredible. They get the tune spot on, but the words they just make up. Yeah, it's the equivalent of putting on a Chinese night and go, na 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 na. And I wonder how comfortable British people would be attending that sort of event. These days, probably in a time of cheap airfares, you might be asking yourself, well, if the organisers put in that much effort organising an authentic German beer do, why don't they go the extra mile and get an actual Oompa band over from Germany? Tell you why they don't do that. Because a German Oompa band could never ever do the job as well as the Herr Flicks. Because a German Oompa band simply wouldn't know the most popular tunes at German beer fests in the United Kingdom. Because they wouldn't know the theme tune to Dad's Army. If I get married, I'll definitely book the Herr Flicks. Mainly confused the hell out of the Germans that come out. They look all right, but what are they doing? What is it? Herr Kuhnle.
You have to go to a restaurant from time to time. That's the reason I was writing a song about going out in a restaurant, and this song is called Good Food. Yady, yodi, lady, hi-ho. Life is good when you have good food, have good food, have good food. But life is sad when the food is bad, life is sad. Here is my advice for when the food is not nice. I tell you now, I'm never wrong. You will be grateful for this song. So when a slab of meat is your dish, looks and smells like rotting fish, order something else instead. If that is off, take bread. But of course, the bread is mold infested, and the chef deserves to be arrested. If the salad looks like toxic waste, ask for it to be replaced. Everybody, yodi, yodi, lady, hi-ho. Life is good when you have good food. Life is good. If you're in a fancy restaurant and everything seems brilliant, you expect to dine like a king, but then the microwave goes ping. Breakfast is the best way to ease yourself into the day. Pleasant, slow and very gentle, then you're having continental. But when your breakfast makes you sick and you need a bucket very quick, your stomach's full anguish, then it's called the full English. Yady, yady, yodi, hi-ho. Life is good when you have good food. Life is good. If you're fed up with bad food every day and you just want to run away, if you're not happy with what was eaten, then you know you are in Great Britain. Yady, yodi, lady, hi-ho. Life is good when you have good food. Life is good.
Yum, yum, yum. We have learned quite a bit today. If you don't like your shopping centre, don't worry, there'll be another one shortly. German BFS are the dog's bollocks. Oh, well, that is not bad innings for 26 minutes of radio entertainment. Thanks so much for listening, and tune in next week when I teach you telekinesis. That was Henning Knows Best, hosted by Henning Wehn, that's me, and featured Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen, the wunderbare Otto Kuhnle, and was written by the cast and Kent Valentine and Liam Malone. It was produced by Paul Russell and was an open mic production for BBC Radio 2.
Henning Wehn, he knows best. 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 Henning Wehn, he knows best.
Yeah, Otto Kuhnle, the funniest man from Düsseldorf. Yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Henning. I am the German comedy ambassador to the United Kingdom. Herzlich willkommen to Henning Knows Best. I've been asked to explore aspects of British society, and this week we'll look at the British sense of humour. The best in the world, as every Brit will tell you. Now, well, let's discuss the best marketing campaign in the world. No, not that the Austrians made the world believe Hitler was German and Beethoven Austrian. That only comes as a distant second. The best marketing campaign is that Brits say the funniest things. Well, if that would be the case, there would be no need for me being on the radio. Contrary to the usual trademark modesty and understatement, no Brit will ever get tired of letting the world know with astonishing arrogance about his or her great sense of humour, which all other nationalities, and particularly Germans, lack. This ignorance makes my job very easy, and this lecture a guaranteed success. No, because either it'll be funny, or I confirm a national stereotype. It's a win-win situation. Wunderbar. In every stupid nonsense survey, and I'm using the term in the loosest sense of the word, claiming Germans have the worst sense of humour in the world, will get massive exposure in British media. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy debates that are based entirely on prejudice and not watered down by facts. But seriously, how anyone can claim that the country that gave the world Herr Flick, Colonel von Strom, General von Klinkerhofen and Lieutenant Gruber has no humour is beyond me. And to know how frustrated other countries are with Brits unjustifiably banging on about their great sense of humour, well, it's how the rest of Britain views Liverpool. British humour started in earnest in the 17th century, when London became the dumping ground for people escaping from the 100-year continental sense of humour failure religious wars. Catholics from Sweden, Huguenots from France, German Protestants, Jews from the Russian pogroms, all fled from a Europe that couldn't even accept an alternative prayer book. Still less a funny song about the Pope. And I don't want to hear a bad word about the current Pope. British humour grew out of this exposure to extreme dogma and intolerance, and having all been sent to live in London's East End, humour became a coping mechanism that valued sneering above all things. This culture of ridicule, interestingly, led to a decline in social violence. Duelling died out in Britain 100 years earlier than it did in Germany, and 200 years before it stopped in Italy and the United States. Because from the early 1700s, you couldn't have a duel in Britain without people standing around, sniggering, giggling, and offering helpful advice. And it was hard to have a glamorous death in such circumstances. And so in every town but Liverpool, the British abandoned ideas of honour. Only going back to them when given the opportunity to jail Pakistani cricket players. The German language is best to convey humour, so we put the verb at the end of the sentence. And this makes the build-up to the punchline so exciting. You don't know what's going to happen, but you do know who and why. Still, despite having a perfect language for joke-telling, there are hardly any stand-ups in Germany. Because life in the fatherland is perfect. And there is no need to daydream and imagine what it would be like living in some parallel universe full of badgers, jam and unicorns. It's very much unlike Britain, where life, due to unrealistically high expectations and below par work ethic, is an endless chain of crushing disappointments, with everyone needing constant cheering up. Honestly, saying a country with no stand-ups has no humour, it's like saying a country with no jails has no crime. Such as Somalia. All the same, pub jokes in Britain and Germany are largely identical. An old codger falling over or getting a cake in the face is always funny, even during a famine. Also, two fat blokes, a cannibal or vicar guarantee a good pub joke in any country. Humour works worldwide, if the reference points are known. But if they're not, you're in trouble. Last year I went out to Australia, to the Melbourne Comedy Festival, with my show, My Struggle. You're a typical British audience, aren't you? Hee. A German. Hee. Doing a comedy show. Hee. Called My Struggle. Like Hitler's book. And then that wasn't a reaction in Australia at all. In Australia it was like, yeah, hello, my name is Henning. Please come and see my show. It's called My Struggle. And they were all like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, it took me a long time to understand why that was. But in Australia, they've got a lot of German ancestry. It means they've got a very good understanding of German history and culture. And they don't just reduce us to those 12 years. Which, as a human being, I really appreciated. But from a professional point of view, I wish they were a bit more narrow-minded. Like you do it so well over here. You have just been laughing about being less sophisticated than Australians. Not a good state of affairs. When I was still working in an office job, our offices were next door to a Polish restaurant. Yeah, and every day much hilarity was caused by a limitless number. You know where that joke's going, huh? Eastwards. And there was much hilarity caused by a limitless number of variations of, where are we going for lunch? Is Henning coming? We can't go to the Polish place then, he wouldn't leave. And the whole office would erupt in laughter every day. Several times a day. And there was little I could do, because I had two options. Either I laughed along, or if I didn't, I opened the door for myriad versions of typical German, no sense of humour. With someone else going, yeah, and that's why they invaded Poland, you know. What can I say? It was funny the first 8,000 times. Equally, when I'm on the golf course, and my ball happens to land in one of those sand pits. Now, you know where that one's going to. And there is a 100% chance, no, not of me chipping it in the hole, no, that never happened. So there is a 100% chance of someone saying, oh, he's worse than Hitler, always in the bunker. And everybody will be bursting out laughing, even though if they've heard it 12,408 times before. Anyway, British humour can be summarised with the line, that always makes me laugh. My friend Liam, he used to live in Hong Kong, likes to talk about a bus that was going to an area called Pak Tin. In Hong Kong, you know where that one's going, yeah. In Hong Kong, being Hong Kong, the bus was always crowded. And seeing a crowded bus going to Pak Tin always made Liam laugh. And just retelling the story makes him always laugh. And what is unique about Britain is the massive social importance of humour, particularly the widespread usage of self-deprecation in the workplace. It's an infuriating concept. Well, let me tell the people back home here at the recording, there are quite a few candidates. I had a look earlier on. I have been in the venue bar since it opened. And tomorrow morning there will be at least one of you on the phone along the lines of, ooh, I went to the comedy recording yesterday, yeah. And went home, yeah, felt a bit peckish. I tried to fry an egg. Yeah, but I was so drunk I fell asleep. The next thing I know, the house is on fire. Yeah, I'm a bit of a volley, aren't I? But you have to laugh, haven't you? 9. You're not a volley, you're a fully fledged idiot of the highest order. You should be implementing steps to make sure that something like that never ever happens again. And the only person that's worse is that fella on the other end of the phone. And then goes, you really are a volley. Let's meet down the boozer. I get the first round in. 9. It's a very important rule of German humour. It's the concept of Schadenfreude. Never ever laugh with failure. Only ever laugh at failure. Stuart Pearce, 1990, Gareth Southgate, 96. What makes me chuckle is that it's perfectly acceptable to take the piss out of Germans, or French, or ginger people for that matter. While society gets its knickers in a twist trying not to offend ethnic minorities. I mean, a few years ago, the BBC vetted old Only Fools and Horses episodes and cut out remarks which could be considered derogatory to people from Asian or African background. But I wonder what would happen to Allo Allo If BBC would decide to cut out all elements that might be deemed insensitive towards Germans. Listen very carefully. I shall say this only once. You have been watching. But the fact is, allo doesn't bother me. In fact, I absolutely love it. Because we all know Brits do have a strong tradition of mocking who they fear most. You're right to be afraid. Yeah, third time lucky. Yeah, well, to give us an idea what really makes the Brit laugh, welcome to the stage, Andy Hamilton! Andy is one of the UK's most successful comedy writers, having co-written the likes of Outnumbered.
Yeah.
Drop the Dead Donkey.
Yeah, don't mention the Bernie Winters show.
No, you didn't do that, did you?
No.
It's good to have jokes coming out the radio, isn't it?
Yeah. I got in trouble once. When I started at BBC Radio, I wrote on a show called Weekending, and we used the word piss. And the controller of Radio 4, we got this memo saying that he didn't want piss coming out of the radio at 5.
So far from what you've heard in the first half, what do you make of the perspective of British humour?
Yeah. Well, from a particular point of view, wasn't it? Yeah, no, I agree. I always get a little bit wary of the sort of generalisations about national senses of humour and stuff, because I think that fundamentally the core of humour is universal, which is that I think journalists often ask you, what is a joke? They ask you to define what is the essence of a joke. And it's very difficult. There are loads of different kinds of jokes, different varieties. But the nearest I've ever come to a definition is that I think that a joke is usually a shared acceptance of powerlessness. Because if you look at most jokes, they are nearly all about things we can't control. Getting older, disease, death, our political masters, traffic wardens, they're all about things we can't control. And I think probably almost as soon as we invented language, as soon as the cavemen discovered language and could string a joke together, I bet the first jokes were about saber-toothed tigers and lightning.
So when you say it's all about things you can't control, so how do you explain then all those mother-in-law jokes?
Well,
it's also uncontrollable force of nature.
I think there probably was fear. Yeah, I think maybe, in a time when it was quite a good chance you'd be living with your mother-in-law. That's what we forget, is that those jokes arose in homes which were extended families. It was quite often the mother-in-law was in the house.
Well, in Italy, they all live with their mother.
Yeah.
So at least you think mother-in-law is one better, isn't it?
But but in Italy, I wonder, do they tell mother-in-law jokes? Do you have mother-in-law jokes in Germany?
Otto?
No.
Are they just too depressing to joke about?
Yeah, he just went through a divorce. So.
Was it the accordion that caused the divorce?
What was your understanding, Andy, of German humour?
I'm not an expert by any means, but I have had stuff on German TV. Many years ago, I was contacted by a writer who was putting together a package of material for sketch shows for Germany. He rang me up and said, have you got any jokes, any sketches that I can send over to Germany? I said, well, what do the Germans laugh at? And he said, well, basically, toilets and death. So I suppose in that sense, the demise of Elvis Presley is the perfect German joke.
What makes you laugh, Andy? Someone getting run over by the bus or getting worked out?
Yeah, I'll spend hours at a busy junction sometimes. Just waiting for that to happen. I'll try and distract people as they come in across. You said, why do people laugh at things again and again? But often you laugh at the memory of how much you laughed the first time. And I can remember being in a restaurant in America with my friend Jay Tarsis, who's an American writer, and he said, I don't really know this place. And we sat down, we opened the menu, and it's a fantastically pretentious, overwritten menu. And item 38 was Princess Diana clams. So you thought... You read that, but there was a rubric next to it, okay? Like there was next to all the dishes, and it said, Princess Diana clams. She loved these as we loved her. And we got the giggles. So that when the waitress came over, we were actually helpless. You know that giggle where actually all that happens is stuff comes out of your facial orifices and she went away quite offended and came back. And then I tried to order Princess Diana clams, which meant that my voice was reduced to a splutter. And I think it's just those kind of absurd, dissonant notes that sort of surprise you and ambush you, you know. What's your favourite joke, then?
Personally, I must say, I really enjoyed slapstick. Mr. Bean and Benny Hill, and that always makes me laugh.
Are you a Benny Hill fan?
Oh, yeah, big time.
So when you came to Britain, did you think we all walk really fast? And chase after girls across the common?
I think it was the other way around. He was always being chased after, wasn't he, by the girls? But, yeah, I expected to see a bit more of that. Well, and
Is it me, or is the accordion starting to sound sarcastic? You know, you see, yeah.
Now it's jolly again.
Yeah.
Well, Andy Hamilton.
Thank you.
What instantly attracted me to the comedy scene was its Teutonic structure. The fun seems to be based on strict rules which have to be obeyed at all times. The process of getting booked and the performing itself are particularly thorough. An act will agree with a comedy club promoter months in advance to be funny on a specific date, at a specific time, for specific lengths of time. Say June the 12th from 9:34 p.m. to 9:53 p.m. And the act might have been on top of the world in the afternoon of that day, feeling all funny, ha ha, yeah? But then has an apple crumble with custard, too much custard. As a result, he feels queasy and doesn't want to go to the gig but stay indoors and watch Match of the Day. But he mustn't let this affect his performance and show military discipline, which only goes to show that success in stand-up comedy, just like success in everything else in life, is down to determination and efficiency, which explains why Germans are best suited to do it. Only very few do stand-up comedy, because stand-up comedy is pointless. The best case scenario is you leave the stage after 20 or even more minutes to the same level of applause that you were initially brought onto the stage. The only thing dafter than applause is the constant threat of having to perform an encore. The strangest thing in show business. A punishment for being good at your job. Imagine you did a great day's work and your boss would tell you, "Oh, you done a great innings today. You're really on a roll. Why don't you stay for another 2 hours?" Unpaid, of course. The problem with being a comedian is that everybody goes, "Oh, you're a comedian. Tell us a joke." And I wonder how frequently a heavyweight boxer gets approached with the words, "Ooh, are you really an undefeated world heavyweight super champion? Smash me one in the face." Yeah, not just a little biff, a right old beating up, please. All the comics you see at really big level or small level, we're all united. We're all very, very worried that one day we're considered outdated, irrelevant, old hat. Like the 1970s comics. They were all telling their mother-in-law jokes and everyone thought they were hilarious. And nowadays no one thinks they're hilarious. But it's not the performer's fault, because they haven't changed. They're still telling exactly the same jokes they've always told. And the only thing that has changed is society's perception of what they do. Zeitgeist has moved on. So when I'm in that strange situation, I make a decent living here in Britain by telling jokes about football and the Holocaust. That's not what I want to talk about, but it's the only thing that you as my customer base, the great British public, it's the only thing you want me to talk about. Yeah, and being a good German, I'm only following your orders. And well, how much longer will I be able to do what I do? I was very worried 6 years ago when Germany hosted Football World Cup 2006. and presented itself to the world as what it is. It's a beautiful country full of very pleasant people. So with so many English people coming over, I was incredibly worried. I thought, dear, oh dear, oh dear, let's hope the stereotypes don't change. Didn't need to worry. I got back to Blighty 2 days after the World Cup final, Stansted Express, and there is a copy of the Daily Mail. And they have a flick through. And the question of the day in the Daily Mail, 2 days after the final of the best organised World Cup ever. The question of the day in the Daily Mail was, did the RAF save Britain from Hitler? I thought, result. Thank God for that. I'm still relevant. Nothing's changed. Thank God. Yeah, but that's today's society. What will the future be like? Well, I know a little bit, because I recently got asked to perform at something that's called Comedy for Kids. And Comedy for Kids is a very simple concept. It's aimed at pretentious parents who will drag their spoiled offspring to an art centre where the kids have to listen to some jokes they won't get. Yeah, it's an utterly ridiculous concept, start to finish. But anyway, I went in there because I thought, well, loads of future customers get them early and all that. So I did the gig. It was in Maidstone. So I went on stage saying, hello, little ones, who in here has ever heard of Germany? And then 200 little ones put their hands up. So I was very pleasantly surprised by that. So then I thought, well, kids in Britain between the age of 6 and 10, what will they know about Germany? Have they got any first-hand experience? Have they been with their parents on a Rhine cruise? You know, if it's girls, do they know German composers? Or if it's boys, do they know German car manufacturer, BMW, Mercedes, Rover? I couldn't imagine any of those things. And then with genuine curiosity, I approached the first boy, give or take 8 years old. I said, what do you know about Germany? And he said, they bombed Yeovil. So I go to the next boy, again, give or take 8 years old, and I say, what do you know about Germany? Naughty Hitler. I was furious. I hated them. I hated their parents. I hated their grandparents for passing on that nonsense. I mean, I hated their grandparents more than my grandparents hated their... I wanted to kill them all. Germany is a beautiful country. Germany is great for arts, great for science, great holiday destination, pleasant people, great climate, brilliant food. Germany is a fantastic country. So why here in Britain do we always get reduced to those 12 years that never ever happened anyway? And then I had another thought, and I thought, hang on, Henning, do you know what that bigotry means? Lifelong job security!
I will sing now this tune with my head voice, which I trained by yodeling every day. And for those who did not understand that, it will sound a little bit like the Bee Gees. We rule the world, the British say, all through the ages and still today. The Commonwealth is in full swing. Brits say the funniest things. Continent is over there, but we do not care. We have severed all the links. Brits say the funniest things. Our empire is big and strong, from east to west, great and long. It's all ruled by our queens and kings. Brits say the funniest things. Global currency is the British pound. It's what makes the world go around. We take the markets under our wings. Brits say the funniest things. Brits has the best sense of humor. It's more than just a rumor. They say they are the humor kings. Brits say the funniest things. Ha 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 ha. Kids say the funniest things.
This was Henning Knows Best, and what have we learned today? British and German jokes are identical, but Germans don't make a big song and dance about it. I'm bad at golf, but good at exploiting stereotypes, and there shouldn't be comedy for kids. There should be homework for kids. And loads of it at that. Thanks so much for listening, and keep supporting the Daily Mail.
Henning, Wehn, Henning, Wehn, he knows best. Henning, Wehn, Henning, Wehn, he knows best. Henning, Wehn, Henning, Wehn, he knows best. Henning, Wehn, Henning, Wehn, he knows best.
That was Henning Knows Best. Hosted by Henning Wehn, that's me, and featured Andy Hamilton, der wunderbare Otto Kuhnle, and was written by the cast and Ken Valentine and Liam Malone. It was produced by Paul Russell and was an open mic production for BBC Radio 2.
Henning, Wehn, he knows best. 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 Henning, Wehn, he knows best.
Wunderbar, guten Tag, herzlich willkommen zu Henning weiß alles am besten. Heute behandeln wir das Thema Sprache. Und mit mir ist der Otto Kuhnle.
Hallo, ja, danke.
Das ist ja mal wieder ganz nett hier, oder?
Ja, mir gefällt das gut hier in London.
Ja, also, mir gefällt es auch. Also je öfter ich herkomme, umso besser gefällt es mir. Ne?
Du kriegst das jetzt auch mit der Sprache immer besser hin. Ne? By the way, maybe you've just noticed, Otto and I, we're just doing exactly the same thing you Brits do whenever you travel abroad. Yeah, we just carry on speaking in our own language regardless. Maybe you noticed we do it without shouting.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Yeah. Welcome to Henning Knows Best. It's the program where Otto Kuhnle, funniest man from Düsseldorf, and the fatherland's foremost Jodelmeister, and I, the German comedy ambassador, have a look at different aspects of British society. Today's episode, as you might have guessed, is about language. Now, as you can see, language has great many practical uses. For example, using language is a great way to start an argument. Best way to finish an argument is a nuclear bomb. That's neither here nor there. So, firstly, I want to compliment all my British friends, as you're much better than your reputation when it comes to speaking foreign languages. Well, that isn't saying that much. The British willingness to learn foreign languages is somewhat hindered by the fact that everyone abroad speaks English. But from my experience, every Brit really does enjoy speaking a foreign language. When I say speaking, every Brit is convinced they're fluent when they know a handful of words. Now, I remember once being heckled by someone shouting Kartoffelsalat. A potato salad. Didn't make any sense, but who cares? His face was beaming with pride. I said it, my one word is out, I'm fluent. I speak a foreign language, I'm the ruler of the world. I said it before and I'll say it again. Kartoffelsalat. Kartoffelsalat made me the man I am. Well, my first contact with a native English speaker was at the age of 12, when a new pupil joined my local school in Hagen, Westphalia. Nino Vollmer, his name, from America. Funnily enough, despite speaking English his entire life, he only achieved average marks in our English test. And True, and everyone took that as a sign of him being really thick. But now I understand it was because our teacher's English simply wasn't good enough to assess his ability. I mean, how can I explain this? Our teacher's English was at the level he would have gone to see a British stand-up and shouted, "Potato salad!" The best way to learn a foreign language is to teach yourself. Like Fawlty Towers Manuel. The likeable Spaniard with the tasty granddaughter. Hello, Mr. Fawlty. I speak English. I learned it from a book. So every Brit knows enough phrases to get by on their holidays to Germany, as long as the conversation requires shouting, "Achtung! Spitfeuer! Donner und Blitzen!" Or "The barrel is red hot, yet still they come." I also like it how in war movies everyone speaks German. But only until they need to explain a plot point. Heil Hitler! Jawohl! Schnell, schnell! The explosives have to reach the bridge by midnight. As if the German language couldn't be used to explain logistics. It's like saying the French language isn't equipped to tell a really, really, really dull love story. The single worst moment for foreign language ability came on January the 1st, 2002, when Spain gave up the peseta and tourists couldn't refer to the prices in spuds any longer. How many potatoes for them flip-flops, me old China, por favor? It was a staple of entertaining foreign holidays. Brits are obviously not alone in celebrating ignorance. I'm sure we all remember what used to be the best day of the year, don't we? The day of the Eurovision Song Contest. And that was by far the best day of the year because that was the one day a year when you could hear a song in Finnish. And another one in Russian, one in Albanian, and poorer countries would spend their annual GDP on a keyboard. It was a laugh and a half. It was the best day of the year. And I remember when I was a little child how our family, the Wehn family, we were always sitting round the telly an hour before the actual transmission started. Yeah, we were already sitting there rubbing our hands in excitement for the jolliness to come. And we were never left disappointed. Immediately we were quite privileged because my father does speak all European languages. It's at least what he always claimed on the best day of the year. My father always insisted on giving simultaneous translations. And over the years, certain pattern emerged. So if my father is to be believed, then all Northern European songs were about how cold they were. And them demanding an extra bottle of schnapps to keep themselves warm. And all Eastern Europeans were demanding an extra rations book for having attended the Communist Party Congress. And all Southern Europeans wanted to make sweet love to their donkeys. You know, all this innocent fun is gone. These days, they're all garbling along in pidgin English. It's infuriating, even Germany. When Lena won it 2 years ago with her horrible song Satellite, she sang it in English. What's the point of that? I mean, last time I counted, Duden, the standard German dictionary, consisted of 312,414 words. And you would think that's a sufficient number of words to write some inconsequential ditty with. Turns out he was yet to sing a rubbish song in English. I went everywhere for you. I even did my hair for you. I bought new underwear, they're blue. And I wore them just the other day. Get off my telly, you national embarrassment! Well, at least sing it in German. Ja, ich hab überall geguckt. Ich hab mir sogar extra schön die Haare schön gemacht. Neue Unterbuchse habe ich auch gekauft. Blau. Es riecht jetzt ein bisschen streng. Die habe ich nämlich auch schon 14 Tage an. See, the song is still absolute rubbish. But at least it does have some gravitas, and no one would even dare to give it 0 points. I mean, the Serbs, they did it properly. They sent some platinum blonde androgynous freak and a few people dressed as farmers, and they were all jumping about like madmen, and the only understandable word was the chorus, Balkan, Balkan, Balkan. I mean, why can't we submit something like that? Deutschland, Deutschland. I mean, 0 point. As I always say to my English friends, trying to win the Eurovision Song Contest, singing in a foreign language, is every little bit as ridiculous as trying to win the Football World Cup with a foreign manager. Yeah, no self-respecting nation would attempt such a stupid thing, would they? Please welcome to the stage a specialist on languages and cultural history, the author Henry Hitchings. Yeah, Henry is an expert on languages and has written books such as The Secret Life of Words, How English Became English, and The Language Wars, A History of Proper English. So what's proper English then?
There's no such thing. It's just what people decided. It's actually the story that I tell in this book is about how our ideas of sort of proper English have really been shaped by individuals. We've never had an institution which does it. And an obvious sort of point of contrast is France, where since 1635 they've had the Académie Française, an organisation which exists for the amusement of foreign journalists. We know how successful the French have been in their attempts to repulse foreign influence on their language, because they don't have words like le weekend and les blue jeans and le self-made man and le Jacques Pau.
Yeah, they do look after their language, don't they? Like, talking about the Eurovision Song Contest, they always make sure that they enter something that's a French song, isn't it? And they've got...
And how many times have they won it?
Yeah, but probably Eurovision Song Contest is the one thing in life that is not necessarily about winning, but...
It's fair to say that the words French and victories don't often belong in the same phrase.
Now we're talking. Now, Henry, how many languages do you speak?
2 1/3.
That's 3?
Well, no. the third is German, but I wouldn't really like to be put on the spot. And, of course, having said that, I know it's going to happen, isn't it?
Muss nicht unbedingt.
Ja, das stimmt. Aber ich spreche nicht fließend Deutsch.
Das ist super.
Ja, wunderbar.
Wunderbar.
Wunderbar. I'm sorry.
Ja, Kartoffelsalat. There were movements like Esperanto where they tried to artificially create a language that could be spoken by all. So such an approach, is that doomed right from the word go?
It should be said Esperanto, which was developed by a Lithuanian ophthalmologist called Ludwig Zamenhof, is not the only example of an artificial language. There have been loads, but you won't have heard of many of the others because they have memorable names like Volapük and Cosmoglossa.
They almost sounded like computer languages, didn't they?
We should be so lucky. I think in Volapük, the verb for to speak is plop on. I might be wrong about it being to speak. There's definitely a verb plop on, which appeals a lot to people who are about 6 years old, but may sort of hamper its efficacy in the broader world.
Seeing that you're an expert when it comes to languages, how good are you at Scrabble?
Really ridiculously good. However, sorry to sound really cocky, the only thing is I haven't actually learnt all the 2-letter words. And I did once find myself with the strange experience of playing Scrabble in Polish. And in Polish, the letter Z is worth 1 point.
Fascinating.
I knew you'd be interested. It could have been yours.
Yeah. How much is the L in the Welsh? version.
It's got to be 1 point. Double L should be 1 point as well.
Yeah. Have you got like a favourite word in English language?
Probably not that I can say on the radio, but I mean, it rather depends who you're speaking to. A word that I have tremendous affection for is the word piglet. But, you know, this obviously sort of highly educated radio listening audience might be more impressed if I said, I don't know, that my favourite word is sesquipedalian, which is a rather sort of archaic word for polysyllabic, which is itself a rather archaic way of saying, talks like someone who works as a management consultant.
Which is a quite modern profession, ironically.
People have been doing that stuff for a long time. It's just the name that's new.
What were they called earlier on, then?
Did the Anglo-Saxons have the word tosser?
Henry Hitching! Herr Kuhnle, what we didn't discuss so far has been the lovely language that is yodeling.
Yeah, because, yodeling never was regarded as any kind of music. It always was something, Wehn, you know that, to transmit information from one mountain summit to another one.
Yes.
Yeah, because you understand that?
Yeah, because otherwise you would have to go into the valley.
Yeah, and then climb
up again, only to say, I'll be a bit late for dinner.
Yeah. Very, very inefficient.
Yes, yeah.
And, and the sound of yodeling, Wehn, I don't know if you know that, it's like inspired by nature. For example, if everybody here wants to yodel, I think. And I have a little exercise, Wehn.
Yeah.
For the men, if you want to yodel, you have to imitate the shout out of a cow. I will demonstrate that for you. It sounds like that. Moo! May I hear now all the men, please? Very nice. It sounds great.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
And for the women, can you please make the sound? It's different. They use a different animal. It's the sound of a sheep. Can I hear the sound from the women? It sounds like that. Nah! Can I hear that, please, from the women? Wehn, they did it. I get the £10. Please.
Yeah. When I first moved to Blighty, didn't have the first idea. It takes time to understand that working class refers to the unemployed. Public school isn't for members of the public, but the aristocracy. Then over the years, there's been a considerable improvement in my Londonisation, because last year I did a gig in Bolton, got heckled with the memorable line, "Knock off back to London, you cockney tosser." That was the proudest moment of my life. Finally arrived. All that listening to Chaz and Dave finally paid off. I mean, funnily enough, most people don't think I'm from Germany, because I don't have a German accent. No, I don't, because I don't sound like the Germans on Hallo, Hallo. And I don't want to disappoint you, but Lieutenant Gruber, General von Klinkerhofen, they're not really German. The General von Klinkerhofen is played by an English actor called Hilary Minster. He was born in Suffolk and lived there all his life. So why should he and I have the same accent? That would only be the case if Germany had won the war. And he would have been forced to learn German from day one. But had Germany won the war, there would be no Hallo, Hallo. It would be Guten Tag, Guten Tag. All them British and American war movies, I really dislike them, because we Germans always lose. Except for one, what's that called? A Great Escape? Or as we call it, a Great Capture? Well, there are two advantages to performing stand-up comedy in a second language. There really are. Firstly, when I started out, my English was still so poor, I didn't understand any of the heckles. That was a big blessing. And the far biggest advantage of doing comedy in a second language, even today, is I'm not being bogged down by everyday problems of a British stand-up. If I go home from a gig where British acts would go, "What the hell? How terrible a gig was that? I go home with a sense of triumph no matter what. Because they thought I was unfunny, they pelted me with glasses and they withheld my pay. But these are all mere nuances because they understood me. In English. Bloody triumph. Speaking a foreign language is about confidence. So I still don't improvise a lot on stage, as when improvising I'm making too much mistakes. Oh dear, no one even realised I did make that particular one deliberately. But honestly, find it difficult to improvise. Because subconsciously I'm horrified of making horrendous mistakes. Talk about that on stage and sometimes people try to encourage me. They say, Henning, don't worry about your grammar. Your English is better than my German. What sort of consolation is that? I came over 10 years ago. I listened to Radio 4. I read The Guardian. I even tried to pick up all those cricket terms. Yorker, googly, Duckworth, Lewis, Method. I mean, don't know what any of it means exactly, but I try my hardest to master the English and British language and culture. So what I don't need is someone saying, I'm doing ever so slightly better. All of that, and he's doing it something that he never even attempted to learn. It's like a bloke walking up to a flat-chested woman in the street and going, Oi, darling, don't you worry about your breasts being tiny. They're bigger than mine. All you'll get is a slap in the face. Or if she's British, she might say, sorry. I mean, funnily enough, even if foreigners are speaking English fluently, we are firmly put in our place. I remember watching John Sargent's tour of India. Him travelling the subcontinent by rail was a tremendous documentary. But what did annoy me no end was, despite most of the Indians speaking pitch-perfect English, all their contributions were subtitled. Why? John Sargent had fluent conversations with everyone without the help of an interpreter, but still all Indians were being subtitled. At the same time, Stephen Gerrard and Jamie Carragher, who should be subtitled, they can gabble on, make me think my TV's broke. Foreigners sometimes complain Brits do not speak their mind, which is a nonsense suggestion. Because Brits do speak their mind, but one has to be in on the code to decipher the meaning. Like if someone comes up after a gig and says, I enjoyed it. I always took that as a face value compliment until I understood that I enjoyed it is code for that was total rubbish. It's the same league as good effort. That was interesting. Some of it was good. That's the best I've ever seen you. How do you think it went? You're so brave. Stand-up comedy, that must be the hardest job in the world. Standing on stage making other people laugh. I couldn't do it. Either. Now my English has improved, and now it's at the level. People say to me, Henning, 10 years in Britain. Henning, do you dream in English? Or do you dream in German? What can I say? Do I dream in English? Do I dream in German? All my dreams are silent movies in which everyone gets on with their job. With their job of helping sheep over a fence. Or at least it was like that in the olden days. Now I've been in Britain so long, I'm busy all night completing risk assessment forms. Nah, too muddy, no jumping tonight. Health and safety. Now, I've had an utter nightmare the other day, because one of my dream sheep, so old, couldn't jump the dream fence anymore. Didn't know what to do. So I spent all night on the phone to the RSPCA until they allowed me to put down the dream sheep. And I haven't slept since. Whimsical humour. Hasn't so my nationality, personality or taste, but I thought I'd give it a good old go. Otto, you have written a song about your favourite German word in the English language.
Yeah, that's true. And I, Otto Kuhnle, inspired by the Ode an die Freude, the Ode to Joy, written by the German poet Friedrich Schiller. The musical setting is by Ludwig van Beethoven. I wrote the Ode an die Schadenfreude. What do you think? It's funny. What is your kind of a joke? When your brother drops a toast of honey, or the neighbor's cat goes up in smoke. Life is lonely, sad and lonely, and you don't know what to do. Schadenfreude, the one and only, brings joy back to you. Now everybody, yeah! Schadenfreude, Schadenfreude, here it comes again. Schadenfreude, Schadenfreude, enjoying others' pain. Schadenfreude, no ticket required, the cheapest love on earth. Schadenfreude, come on, get inspired, a pleasure since the day of my birth. A cream pie on your face, falling over an untied lace. A full glass of good red wine on a white shirt, that's not mine. Yo. Great, it makes me laugh. Schadenfreude, Schadenfreude, truly is fun and a half. Schadenfreude, Schadenfreude, someone else bangs their head. Schadenfreude, Schadenfreude, someone else is dead.
We've learned quite a few things about language today, haven't we? Eurovision Song Contest is not about winning, but retaining your dignity. Herr Flick and Helga aren't German. Bad marks at school are your teacher's fault. And that's not a bad innings for 26 minutes of radio entertainment. Thanks so much for listening, and tune in next week when I'll explain the finer details of rocket science. Auf Wiedersehen! He knows best. Henning, Wehn, he knows best. Henning, Wehn, he knows best. Henning, Wehn, he knows best. That was Henning Knows Best, hosted by Henning Wehn, that's me, and featured Henry Hitchings, the wunderbare Otto Kuhnle, and was written by the cast and Ken Valentine and Liam Malone. It was produced by Paul Russell and was an open mic production for BBC Radio 2. Henning Wehn, he knows best. 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 Ladies and gentlemen, herzlich willkommen. Welcome to Henning Knows Best. Give it up for Otto Kuhnle! Well, I've been kindly asked to investigate aspects of British society, and this week we'll explore Britain's relationship to sport. British sport, just like German humour, is no laughing matter. As such, not an obvious subject to tackle for what is meant to be a funny programme. Did you ever wonder why there aren't more comics talking about sport on stage? It's extremely difficult, that's why. Got to be interesting for punters that are familiar with traditional British sports, such as bull baiting. But also has to be enjoyable for people who don't know a leg before from their elbow. It also mustn't turn into one big exercise of Brit bashing. So as you can see, these are unrealistically high expectations that are bound to end in crushing disappointment, which ironically is a fitting summary of British professionals. Well, British sport is very integral to me being in the UK, because I did arrive on these shores 10 years ago to work in the marketing department of third division side Wycombe Wanderers FC. And if that wasn't the best crash course of Britain, then I don't know what is. Well, one of the first people I met was 80-year-old Jim, one of the club's many volunteers. Lovely chap who sold tickets for the club lottery. And he was wearing a jumper emblazoned with the Royal Air Force logo, and immediately asked me where in Germany I was from. Yeah, you are anticipating what... So anyway, I said, I'm from Hagen. And then him replying very matter-of-fact, ooh, I know Hagen, but only from the air. Well, on that bombshell, let's talk about the upcoming Olympic Games in London, London 2012. Are we all excited? Yeah. I think we can all safely agree London 2012, that'll be a right old shambles. It will be a national embarrassment and a half. At least unlike at the last London Olympics in 1948, this time Germany is invited. But let bygones be bygones. Londoners will be great hosts and create a great atmosphere and make the athletes of even the most outlandish sport feel welcome. So I'm not saying you celebrate weirdness, but you certainly support variety. Talking as a British taxpayer and London council taxpayer, the one issue I'm already not best pleased with is the whole budget issue. Because when Britain bid for the Games, it was meant to cost £2.4 billion. Now they're up to 9.3 billion. How can they get it that wrong? Did they go, ooh, we would really like to host them Olympic Games. What do we need for that? Well, to host them Olympic Games, we'll need one marker pen to write down the winners' names. And we'll need one big whiteboard to write the names on. And we'll need one massive box of PG tips to see us through. And I tell you what, as a special treat for all the athletes, they'll break a world record. They'll all get an after 8. And based on that, Britain's given the Games, and then one bright spark went, oh no, we've forgotten something. We also need stadiums. Is there any bookkeeping trick we can do? Yeah, let me do it. I used to work for KPMG. Come on. Give me that marker pen. Come on, here. Marker pen, £1.69. Whiteboard, £4.99. PG tips, £5.99. After 8, £3.99. Miscellaneous, £7 billion. And in the end, it was a two-horse race, wasn't it, the Games? Either they would go to Paris or to London. And don't get me wrong, I really dislike the frogs. And I still much rather the Games had been given to Paris and every single British taxpayer had been given a return ticket on the train to Paris and back and 5 nice nights in a hotel over there and a complimentary gold medal. And all that would have been a lot cheaper and a lot less embarrassing than actually trying to host the Games. Winning Olympic medals is hard, isn't it? And that's why Britain very shrewdly invented the Commonwealth Games. Yeah, the Commonwealth Games where British athletes compete against the finest postmen, plumbers and bus drivers from Montserrat, Dominica and the Virgin Islands. It's like the first round of the FA Cup all the way through. And when hosting international events, citizens are always promised a legacy of grassroots facilities. Well, let's see if London 2012 will deliver. I mean, the UK could certainly do with some more swimming pools, Olympic-sized, open to everyone and a pleasure to be in. Of course, we all know what it's like at the moment, don't we? I mean, go to any public swimming pool and everyone in there will be there on doctor's orders. There with the twigs hanging out their mouths. Yeah, then in a shallow end there will be some sex cases. They will be doing 2 lengths at most before some spitting and pissing in the water. I mean, that is your run-of-the-mill British pool experience, isn't it? And last year I went to a swimming pool in Australia, and everyone in there was looking really healthy and knew how to swim really elegantly and fast and for hours. I was by far the most out-of-shape person in the pool, if not the whole local area. Tell you what, I was probably the most out-of-shape person in the whole of Australia. I became so self-conscious. So I looked down myself in my Speedos. I've got pot belly. I was sunburned yet pale. Don't know how I done it, yeah? And then I've got bloated cheeks indicative of a camera membership card. I felt so uncomfortable in myself that ultimately I unfurled my Union Jack and gave a rendition of Rule Britannia. And because I thought I'd rather give Britain a bad name than Germany. There is one thing British councils have a lot better organised than their Australian counterparts. And that are the shops at the exit. Yeah, because in Australia there was a beautiful person trying to sell me freshly squeezed fruit juice, making me feel even more inadequate. Yeah, and that's understood by the British councils. And they make sure that British swimming pool exit shops only sell twigs, fresh out the pool, and that they're all staffed by some freakish-looking creature. Yeah, that no matter how little exercise you just got done, you'll be able to leave on a positive notion of... Well, at least I look healthier than you do. That's not a Twix. Well, in Britain is home to some of the world's strangest sports. Box snorkeling, cheese rolling, haggis hurling. Yeah, but none of them needs as much explaining as the strange beast that is the so-called gentleman's sport. It's not a specific sport, it's a state of mind. As soon as the Brits realise they aren't good enough to win, which tends to be shortly after the sport in question has been taken up by a second nation, they refer to any given sport as gentleman's sport, a ready-made excuse to laugh off underachievement. These gentlemen's sports, this whole nobody is a loser approach, is plain wrong. I mean, not only in sport, but life in general. Because whatever you start out in life, be it golf, binge drinking or street fighting, in the beginning you must get outclassed and reduced to tears, for that is what makes you strive for revenge. You quit your day job, cancel all social activities and focus on practicing. And then after years of single-minded determination, you reduce others to tears. Or fail and kill yourself. That's life. Then sport can bring people together, but equally it can divide communities, particularly in Glasgow. And with all its sectarian problems. And bigotry isn't as easy as it looks. No, it really isn't, because I, for one, can't make my mind up which old firm side to support. I mean, I love the current Pope. Certainly his nationality. So I should support Celtic, the Catholic side. But I'm a born Protestant, so I should support Rangers. But being a Protestant in the UK means being loyal to the Queen of England. So I should support Celtic. Then again, the Queen of England is German. So I should support Rangers. It's just too complicated. I sometimes wish I would have been born into some East Glasgow council estate with my dad, naively assuming I would know him, with my dad telling me who to hate. Obviously, can't give this lecture on sports without mentioning the footballing rivalry between England and Germany. What can I say? England, Germany. It's always a big game, particularly for England. Germany usually have got a lot bigger games to play after. Well, to be honest, I don't enjoy football as much as I used to because Nationalmannschaft, the German national team, we're rubbish these days. Honestly, we have now not won a major tournament for 16 years. And we haven't even been to a final of one for almost 45 months. All those days of hurt. Well, and now to give us a real insight into the world of English sports, I'm now joined by former player, ex-manager of the England football team, football pundit and the current chairman of Watford FC, Graham Taylor. So far, a fair assessment of British sports?
Very accurate, I would think. Very accurate. But there is this relationship between England and Germany on the football field. Now, relationship is a strange word to use, but you're quite right what you say. It is a special game. My particular start as the England manager, my first 12 games without defeat, my 13th game against the unified Germany, we lost.
Well, what can I say? I'm sorry.
I mean, the one thing you've got to accept when you're a football manager is everybody can do your job better than you. You've just got to accept it. And they never pick a side. Their side never plays, but they're still better than you, if you're losing.
Yeah, well, that is... I mean, the thing is, as a stand-up comedian, at least you tend to have the audience on your side at first.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Yeah. Very great. Yeah, play it, did you, Otto? Talking about the upcoming Olympic Games, are you one of the lucky ones? Have you got tickets for anything?
No, I haven't got tickets because, when London talk about how to get to the Olympic Games and you realise that all the roads are now painted red just for the officials, you think, how the hell am I going to get there? So I have no tickets. I'll end up being a television viewer. I'm not going to go down. I didn't apply for any tickets. Might surprise people, but...
No?
No.
Have you got a big telly?
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I've got a neighbour across the road, and even if you look on the other side of the road, their telly in their living room is bigger than the telly in my own living room. Yeah, would you say overall Britain is a strong sporting nation?
It is in terms of, what they believe without, you've not brought it in, but it is very, very disappointing. In 1966... I was in my room. I'd been married 15 months, and I'm watching the game, and Jeff Hurst comes along. The old saying, they think it's all over. It is now. Jeff Hurst has put the ball into the top corner of that. It's 4-2. Yours sincerely. Jump up like that. And would you believe we'd just bought a chandelier, and I broke the chandelier, and my wife has never, ever forgiven. She still talks about it, and it all came down. And I mentioned it to Jeff Hurst once, and he's not offered me any money either.
Yeah, well, everybody else keeps talking about that day.
Well, that's all I can talk about,
isn't it? The wife might as well, mightn't she? So if you were the sports minister, what would you change, or if you were the chairman of the FA?
Well, I'd get rid of foreign managers. I don't believe in them. I'm sorry for the England side. England, if they want to remain... this is nothing against either Sven Eriksson or Fabio. It's nothing against them, but I don't believe that England should be employing a foreign manager. And I would prefer, I don't mean to be nasty at all, but I would prefer the England manager to be English.
Yeah. Yeah, I find it... I mean, it's a different story, let's say, if Germany were to take up cricket. So you would get someone in from England or Australia because they know best, or at least they know something about the sport. So that will be because, and then if it's not your core sport, you can get someone from abroad. But if it's your core sport, right, you should have one of your own people.
That's what I agree.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Are you available again?
Well, I suppose, keep it between ourselves.
Yeah.
But I've been very fortunate. I don't care what anybody says at all. To be a professional footballer and to attain a level of fitness that professional sportsmen do, fantastic. To play football and then manage, I've never had a proper job in my life, have I? Fantastic.
Long may that continue. Give it up for Brian Taylor.
The summary is football is about winning. It was a long talk for that result.
Yeah. 2 world wars. I hear that wherever I go. 2 world wars and 1 World Cup. Duda. 2 world wars and 1 World Cup. Duda. I mean, I follow football quite closely. I don't remember America ever win the World Cup. That works even better in Scotland. No, but leave it or not, I still get heckled with shouts of 5-1. 5-1. I mean, let me explain to the ladies what that is all about. 5-1 is a fluke scoreline from a football game only 11 years ago, when England indeed beat Germany 5-1 and even Heskey scored. It was a qualifier for World Cup 2002, which in the end both teams did qualify for. And then in the actual tournament, Germany went on to play the final. Admittedly, we lost, but we went on to play the final, whilst England got sent packing weeks before that. And that's why I genuinely don't understand the pride about that 5-1. Because that is a bit like me walking up to a Russian fella and go, "Oi, mate, Stalingrad, 1941. Duda. I wouldn't do that. Simply because I know the Russian fella would just turn around and go, "Stalingrad, 1942. Dudaski. Jeff Hurst. Let's go back even further. Jeff Hurst could invent a cure against cancer, and no one would care. Yeah, Jeff, your Nobel Prize-deserving breakthrough in medical science is all good and well, but tell us again, what was it like 1966, scoring those 2 goals? Now, celebrating past successes has long been not only a problem of British sport, but wider society. The British military still gloats about their minor supporting role in World War II. And as a result, they have not won anything since, other than a small conflict in 1981 against third-rate Argentina, who were without Maradona. At home, or was it away? And finding the answer to that question was what the war was all about. I tell you what, had Lord Nelson survived the Battle of Trafalgar, he would have spent the last few decades of his existence in alehouses round Soho being coaxed into time and again repeating how he hoofed the cannonballs up front until one of them finally hit the back of the Spaniard's onion bag. To this day, Nelson's an inspiration to youngsters, such as a young Ellen MacArthur, who saved all her school dinner money to buy her first boat. Which begs the question what sort of school she went to. How much can a school reasonably charge for turkey twizzlers? I mean, had I saved up all my dinner money, I could have best have afforded one of them rubber swimming rings. I suspect the boat was bought for her by her parents as a punishment. Whenever she was naughty, she wasn't sent to her room, but out to sea. Her parents were accused of cruelty, but they claimed the Atlantic was her bedroom. Whimsical humour! It doesn't suit my nationality, personality, or taste, but I thought I'd give it a good old go. And talking of whimsical, last October, The Guardian ran a piece asking if angling is a racist sport. They really did. The question I would like to have answered first is if angling is a sport. As far as I can tell, the only ones exercising are the fish. I don't understand the appeal of angling. I mean, I do like sitting down, but I'm not keen on all those rods, reels and tackles. Bring a power generator. Electrify the water and let the voltage do the work for you. Fish will get a shock and you can simply collect as many as you need. Efficiency. It's now 10 years since I came over to work for Wycombe Wanderers and realised I'm becoming more and more British. I realised that particularly last year when I did a recording for QI, that Stephen Fry programme, one of the topics was injustice in sport, or miscarriage of justice in sport. Well, 1966, obviously. There have been other incidents of cheating, and the one I look back on, I remembered in 2000. Do you remember that? 2000 at the Paralympics. Do you remember the Spanish basketball team? Yeah, that entered the mentally disabled basketball tournament. Yeah, and thrashed everyone like no one's business. Yeah, won the gold medal by a country mile, but then later on were found out not to be disabled. And at the time, I was still living in Germany, and I was thinking, well, it's a bunch of Spaniards. And they entered a mentally disabled basketball tournament without being disabled. That way, outdoing genuinely disabled people, or they fully deserved Paralympic medals. And that's so low and shows such massive mental deficiencies that they were entitled to be in the competition. And that's how I thought about it back then. But now, after 10 years in Britain, I thought about it afresh. And I thought, well, it's a bunch of Spaniards. They were just having a laugh. Come on, they were just having a laugh. Have you got no sense of humour? Bloody rule Nazis, they were just having a laugh. Come on. And that's when I realised that now, after 10 years in Britain, I do rate having a laugh over logic.
Well, Kuhnle, my father, he's a doctor still, and so I got a very, very critical eye on sport because I always saw those injured people coming in our house. I wrote a song, a very critical song about sport, about the negative aspect, because you only talked about the positive aspect, and the people can also join in at a certain point. Too much sport makes you sick, makes your joints swollen and thick. The benefit of sport is misunderstood, with all that damage done for good. Who's always running as fast as he can will soon be walking like an old man. Arthritis, pain and tears of frustration is the final destination. Falling from the back of the horse is painful, yes, of course. Racing downhill on your skis, crash and break both your knees. Running, swimming, basketball, a German phrase that says it all. Sport ist Mord, means sport will kill, so please, no sports, ignore the thrill. Sport is Mord, means sport will kill, please, no sports, ignore the thrill. Boxing leads to mental issues. Tennis elbow can give you the blues. The list of risks in rugby is too long for just one little song.
But the worst that can happen to you, and this is important and this is true, it's unacceptable and there is no excuse. Never, ever lose. One more time, everybody. Never, ever lose. Repeat. Never, ever lose. In Germany, failure is not expected. Only winning is accepted. Now you truly understand how we do sport in the fatherland. Now you truly understand how we do sport in the fatherland.
We have learned so much about Britain over the last 6 weeks. The people of Blighty like a laugh. There would be no political system if it wasn't for hobnobs. The Queen is middle class, and I learned how to pronounce ad infinitum. Oh no, wrong again. Well, one mustn't grumble, and there's always a next series for 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps anyway. Thanks again so much for listening, and goodbye!
Henning, Wehn, Henning, Wehn, he knows best. Henning, Wehn, Henning, Wehn, he knows best. Henning, Wehn, Henning, Wehn, he knows best.
That was Henning Knows Best, hosted by Henning Wehn, that's me, and featured Graham Taylor und der wunderbare Otto Kuhnle. It was written by the cast and Ken Valentine and Liam Malone. It was produced by Paul Russell and was an open mic production for BBC Radio 2.
Henning Wehn, he knows best. Henning